Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanodari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanodari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanodari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanodari Gopi Sodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanodari Yasodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Javis Pad Paramahangsa Prabhupada Jaya Asada Shri Maharaj Divine Grace of the A.C. Bhakti and Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananda Gaura Vaishnava ki jai, Namacharya Sridhar Thakur ki jai, ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prem Jigaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Maya Pranav Dham ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Jamuna Maya ki jai. Tulsideva ki jai. Bhakti Deva ki jai. Samveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Go Premanandi. All glories some devotees. All glories some devotees. All glories some devotees. All glories to the some devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. I think this is pretty low, isn't it? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 24, chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva, text number 73. Devayang nodita sarve Pajasarge Bhajesvaraha Anena Dvasta Tamasaha Susiksmo Vividha Praja Devayang nodita sarve Pajasarge Bhajesvaraha Anena Dvasta Tamasaha Sastriksmo Vividha Praja Devayang nodita sarve Pajasarge Pajesvaraha Anena Dvasta Tamasaha Sastriksmo Vividha Praja Devayam nodita sarve Pajasarge Pajesvaraha Devayam nodita sarve Te, by him, Vayam, all of us, Noditaha, ordered, Sarve, all, Praja Sarge, at the time of creating population, Praja Ishvaraha, the controllers of all living entities, Anena, by this, Dvastatamasaha, being freed from all kinds of ignorance. Sustriksmaha, we created. Vividha, various kinds of. Praja, living entities. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki. When all the Prajapatis were ordered to create by Lord Brahma, we chanted these prayers in praise of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and became completely freed from all ignorance. Thus we were able to create different types of living entities. Purport. In this verse we can understand that the various types of living entities were created simultaneously at the very beginning of the creation. The nonsensical Darwinian theory of evolution is not applicable here. It is not that intelligent human beings did not exist millions of years ago. On the contrary, it is understood that the most intelligent creature, Lord Brahma, was first created. Then Lord Brahma created other saintly sages like Mrichi, Bhrigu, Atreya, Vashishta, and Lord Shiva. They, in their turn, created different types of bodies according to karma. In Srimadbhagavatam, Lord Kapila told his mother that the living entities get a particular type of body in accordance with the work that this body is decided upon by higher authorities. The higher authorities, as appointed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are Lord Brahma and all other Prajapatis and Manus. Thus, from the beginning of creation, it can be seen that the first creature is the most intelligent. It is not that the so-called modern intelligence has developed by the gradual process of evolution. As stated in Brahma's Vivarta Pramana, there is a gradual evolutionary process, but it is not the body that is evolving. All the bodily forms are already there. It is the spiritual entity or spiritual spark within the body that is being promoted by the laws of nature under the supervision of superior authority. We can understand from this verse that from the very beginning of creation, different varieties of living entities were existing. It is not that some of them have become extinct. Everything is there. It is due to our lack of knowledge that we cannot see things in their proper perspective. In this verse, the word dvashta tamasa is very important, for without being freed from ignorance, one cannot control the creation of different types of living entities. As stated in the Srimadbhagavatam 3:31:1, Daiva Netrena, bodies are awarded under the supervision of superior powers. How can these superior powers control the evolutionary process of the living entity if they are not free from imperfection? The followers of the Vedic instructions cannot accept the Darwinian theory of evolution, for it is marred by imperfect knowledge. Om Jnanatimandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshumalitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mugram Gurudavachalang Punganlang Haite Grim Yatkripa Tadaham Bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam Vanchakapatibhyasta Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Lord Brahma and the Prajapatis, they created many different types of living entities. And sometimes the living entities that Lord Brahma created didn't come out exactly the way he wanted them to. Just like many of us, we were growing up and our parents had certain ideas about how they wanted their children to be when they grew up. And we didn't turn out exactly the way they wanted. They didn't expect for us to become Hare Krishnas. Many are very disappointed. I know my mother was extremely disappointed. So it's the material world. So Lord Brahma, he would also create and be disappointed. There was one instance where he created these living entities. It's described that he was a little bit in the mode of passion. So these demons came out and approached him with a homosexual appetite. And Lord Brahma, he just started to laugh, he just laughed at such stupidity. It's mentioned in the Bhagavatam. But then he saw they're coming at him, he started praying to Krishna. And Krishna said you have to give up this body, because desires or thoughts are also bodies. They're subtle bodies. So he gave up that body. Actually, it's described that Lord Brahma, he also has a completely subtle body. His body is made of intelligence. It's described pure intelligence. This is the body of Lord Brahma, subtle. He doesn't blink his eyes. Demigods, they don't blink their eyes. And his body doesn't touch the ground. It's not spiritual, but subtle, nonetheless, still subtle. So he gave up that body, and Prabhupada mentions that in the purport in this pastime, that therefore one can understand that this homosexual appetite, it's a demoniac desire that should be given up. And I remember Devaramrita Swami, he told me that he had one disciple that was homosexual, and he was able to do it. He gave that up. And he became, he got married and had children, lived a nice grihastha life. So it is possible. So we're trying to develop spiritual desires. So desires are subtle bodies. So we want to increase our spiritual, subtle desires, and these are like bodies. So we want a huge, subtle body of desire to serve Krishna. To serve Radha and Krishna, to serve our spiritual master, and this will help us to get closer to Krishna. This is the of course this is the goal, to get closer to Krishna. But it all starts out with desire. And therefore it's stated, Adao Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangata Bhajanakriya Taton Artha Nivritti Taton Nishta Ruchistataha. That when one first comes to Krishna consciousness, there's some preliminary faith. And most devotees, they come to Krishna consciousness because they get some knowledge. You get a book, for instance. Like I got a book. How many of you joined because you got a book? Javita got a book. Okay, so yeah, most devotees. Now a big thing that devotees are coming from is friends talking to them. Just friends telling them about Krishna. When I was in Russia, I was amazed how many devotees joined because their friends who were devotees spoke to them about Krishna, and they became attracted to Krishna. So that's some preliminary faith. Is hearing the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And there's other ways. Sometimes people they become attracted to the devotee because of kirtan, hearing the holy name. Sometimes we have some really nice kirtans and people become attracted. Prasadam, Prabhupada said our secret weapon is prasadam. Many devotees who come because of prasadam. So this is like a preliminary phase, Dao Shraddha Tata Sadhu, and then from that association of Krishna, with Krishna in these different ways, they want to associate with the devotees and find out more. It's like you have this what do you call this? This Krishna lounge. So you invite people here, and they hear about Krishna. They have the kirtan, and people become attracted. And finally they say, well, let me give this a try. Let me join, give it a try. So that's association with the devotees. And from association with the devotees, then one learns bhajanakriya. Who knows what bhajanakriya except for Dravida? Ram, what does bhajanakriya mean? Devotional service, yeah. Devotional service. So all the devotees were doing service. So if someone wants to associate with devotees, then very quickly they also engage in devotional service. Now, there's different levels of devotional service. And then, so it goes on to say, Adaushara tatasa sangata bhajana taton artha nivritti. You have to give up bad habits. You have to give up these unwanted desires, these subtle unwanted desires, these bodies. We have to give these up. See, the first three is not that difficult. To get some preliminary faith in Krishna, even to associate with devotees, not that hard. People could come here, and well, of course, not now. People can't come and associate, but online people associate with devotees. Just like Raghunath has this wisdom of the sages, and they get about between 7,000 and 9,000 people on their. They have a, what do they call that? Podcast. So they have that every day, srimadbhagavatam reading, and they get between 7,000 and 9,000 people every day. So people are looking in so many ways. With the internet, there's so many ways that people can hear kirtan in classes. It's just like so. There's many ways that people can associate with devotees, in this subtle way with the internet. And then even to engage in devotional service. And just like we may be on a walk and someone says, "Oh, good morning." That's devotional service. Wishing a devotee a good morning. That's devotional service. Sometimes, or quite often actually throughout the world, not now so much, but people give donations. That's devotional service. Prabhupada said they just read one line, it can change their life. That's also devotional service. So there's many ways that people can engage in devotional service. Many of you may not know it, but the first Rath Yatra on Fifth Avenue, you were there, Javita? This is, Prabhupada said, the most important city on the most important street in the world. The first Rath Yatra there, we were having a hard time finding a place to build the carts. There's, there are 3 huge carts. There was no space around there. But there was one place where we can do it, and that property belonged to Donald Trump. So one devotee, he wrote Donald Trump, "We need to build these carts for this big festival. We need space, and you have that space. Can we use that space there?" And he wrote back, "Yeah, go for it." Oh, they were giving prasadam. I heard he also went to 26 Second Avenue back in the early days. At one point, just visited there. Yeah. I heard. So, I mean, that's incredible devotional service, and Krishna's not going to forget that. I mean, with all that he's doing now, the kind of questionable thing. Yeah, I'll need it. But Neha Bhikkamanaso Street, Krishna, he never forgets any devotional service. I mean, that was an incredible amount of devotional service. Prabhupada was there, and he loved that Rath Yatra. He was so happy. So many people engaged in devotional service in various ways. I just recently heard that there was one sannyasi. He asked a couple of devotees if he sees anybody in a crowd there that are doing devotional service. They were watching the Harinam. So he asked a couple of, "Do you see anybody here engaging in any devotional service?" And they were looking around. And he said, "You don't see?" There was one person tapping his foot to the music. So that's, that's kind of like a little dance, So there's many ways that people can engage in devotional service. They may not know how they're engaged in devotional service. There's agyatu sikriti, but that's there. Adaushara tatasadu sangata, but yeah, people were watching the Harinam. And one sannyasi asked a couple of devotees, "Do you see anybody here in the crowd doing any devotional service while they're just standing there?" And the sannyasi noticed this person tapping his foot to the kirtan. Also, just hearing and appreciating the kirtan. Yeah, that's also devotional service. Bhajanak. So adaushara tatasadu bhajana adaushara tatas sagana bhajanakya taton artha nivritti taton nishta. then you get a taste. You really get a firm taste. It's like there's preliminary faith that we get by coming to Krishna consciousness, but then there's firm faith, and that's from hearing and practicing. You get this firm faith in Krishna, and then you get a ruchi, you get a taste for Krishna. And so many people, they have taste. It's called rasa. You get a taste. It's like people, they have a taste for gambling, unfortunately. Ruin their lives sometimes. Or they have a taste for meat eating. And so many sinful activities. People have a taste for surfing. We see here in SanDiego, so many people they're surfing. They have a taste. People, even they're 65 years old, they're out there surfing still. So people get a taste for different things, different activities. But the highest taste that one can get is from devotional service to Krishna. This is what fully satisfies the soul. These other things, there may be some pleasure there, just like it's stated in the srimadbhagavatam, that if we try to enjoy anything in this world, that very thing that we're trying to enjoy separately from Krishna is the cause of our suffering. So better focus our attention in a place where we won't get a reaction. We're not going to get a reaction for trying to enjoy in certain ways. Better focus our attention on pleasing Krishna, then we'll experience the highest taste. This is the highest taste, is this desire, this devotional service to Krishna. And it's interesting that Krishna, he's very liberal, and he's also very conservative. So how is he very liberal? What's the verse, Dravida, in the Bhagavad Gita, showing how Krishna is liberal? Iti te jnanam akyatam guyatamamaya vimarshadasheshana yatechasi tatakuru. Yeah, so Krishna spoke the whole Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. And what did he say? He said, now, Krishna, I've explained to you knowledge which is even more confidential. Now you deliberate on this fully, and you do as you like. Do whatever you want to do. So this is Krishna's liberal side of him. And then just 2 verses later, actually many verses, his conservative side comes out. Manmana bhava madbhakto majaji mam namaskuru mamavashasi satyante pratijane priyosme. Always think of me. Become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you'll come to me without fail. I promise you this because you're my very, very dear friend. So he's very always think of me. Chitasa sarvakarmani mayi sanyasya matpara. In all activities, just depend upon me and act under my protection. And then machitata sarvadagani, the next verse, he says, if, however, you act out of false ego and you don't hear me, then you'll be lost. So there's many statements in the Bhagavad Gita and other places where Krishna is explaining his conservative side. So why is Krishna so conservative? Why is he so, one may even say, demanding? Because he knows what's best for us. There used to be a show on TV that we used to watch when we were kids. David might remember it. Father Knows Best. It goes way back. It turns out that unfortunately the person who played father was a big alcoholic. So, but he was supposed to be the person that knew best for his children. But the ultimate father, Krishna, he knows what is best for us. We could go off and we can do whatever we want, but the best father, Krishna, he knows what is best for us. So therefore he's is emphasizing so much that we think of him, that we engage in devotional service, that we focus on this desire to please him. Otherwise, we can go way off. We can go way off track, just like Prabhupada mentions here in this, in the purport about the Darwinian theory of evolution. You know, it's exactly what it is. It's just a theory. Although I remember I was distributing books one time at a university, and this one student, he saw this changing bodies exhibit, and he said, "Oh, what's that about?" I said, "Well, this is reincarnation." Oh, he said, I thought it was the evolution theory. I said, "No, that's just what it is. It's a theory. It's evolution theory." And he said, "Theory? Come on, that's as much of a theory as gravity is theory." You know, people are completely convinced of this theory, but there's many missing links. They say there's one missing link, but actually there's many missing links. And you know what Prabhupada said about the missing link? Prabhupada said the missing link is my boot on his head, the modern scientist. And he told the BI, Bhaktivedanta Institute, our scientist, he told our scientist, that the more you kick on the head, the material scientist, the more you advance in Krishna consciousness. So that was one of Prabhupada's big things. He wanted to stop this nonsense teaching. Yeah. No God, evolution theory, all this nonsense. Yeah. So, but Krishna, he gives them, just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that the people who want to worship the demigods, he increases their faith. He gives them faith in the demigods. So similarly, someone wants to forget God and you come up with these different theories. So Krishna gives them the intelligence and gives them faith in this in these wild theories that come out. And they're actually quite intelligent people. But as Prabhupada says in one purport, that the modern scientists have lost their brain work due to accepting the theory of uncertainty. Powerful statement there. They've lost their brain isn't working properly because mainly because they've rejected Krishna. So this is the main problem. But they're quite intelligent people, but they're misusing their intelligence. Prabhupada said, polished animals. What is that verse? Ahara nidra bhayamaitanam cha samanyameta pashabi naranam dharmohitesam adhiko visesa dharmenihina pasibi shamana. So we have many activities that are similar to the activities of the animals. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Yeah. The human beings, we may be eating in a nice plate on a table, but the animals, they're also eating. Dogs, some of them eat pretty good. And I looked it up, there's some animals that get these huge inheritances. So there's one dog that he inherited over $300 million. I'm serious. So he's probably got a pretty big doghouse. Pretty nicely furnished doghouse. But that's what it is. It's a doghouse. And people that are living like dogs, they could also, they have their big mansions, but they're also like doghouses. Because they're living like dogs, like animals, without inquiring about the, higher values of life, without understanding, or trying to understand God. So eating, sleeping, the animals, they're sleeping, we're sleeping. When you're asleep, you don't know if you're sleeping on the ground, you're sleeping on a bed. Dogs are also sleeping. Actually, Prabhupada said the dogs, they have some nice qualities about them. And one of them is they don't go into deep sleep. They could jump up. When we get up, we're like kind of groggy, trying to. But dogs, they jump up. They're alert right from the time they did it, and they're very loyal. Prabhupada he was giving class, and he gave this story about this about the loyalty of a dog. There was one master who had this dog, rather big-sized dog. And he was leaving to go to the store, and he kind of motioned to the dog, watch the child, and then he left. And he came back from the store, and there was blood everywhere. He didn't see his child. And there was blood on his dog's mouth. So he was appalled. Like, you killed my baby. So he went to get a gun, and he's pointing it at the dog, and the dog's just like whatever, He killed the dog, and then he heard the baby. The baby's crying. He's like, what's that? So when he follows the sound of the baby crying, the baby is under the bed, perfectly all right. And then I think, well, where'd the blood come from? He followed the blood around. The dog killed a fox. I guess they lived in the wilderness somewhere, protecting the baby. Now you can imagine he must have been devastated. He didn't kill himself. But, so this is the loyalty of a dog. They're very loyal. And their dogs are very friendly. They call it dogs, a man's best friend is the dog. They wag their tail, and they're very friendly. Oh yeah, Lassie. There's one devotee, actually, he had a dog, and he said, yeah, my best friend is my dog. Of course, he had a hard time getting along with devotees. So that's there even with devotees. Dogs are very friendly. So there's three more, actually, Prabhupada said. I can't remember them all. Yeah, qualities of a dog. So, but what a dog can't do is inquire about the absolute truth. Actually, they can. There's an example of Lord Chaitanya. And what was Sivananda Sain? Sivananda Sain was very merciful to this dog. And the dog started following. Actually, there's many examples of dogs showing affection for devotees. Oh yeah, sure. Many examples. I've heard even while in ISKCON. So this dog somehow got the affection of Sivananda Sain. And he was following the devotees, and they got to a river, and they had to. Yeah, so they had to go across the river, and the boatman wouldn't take the dog. And somehow, Sivananda Sain, he just thought he's part of our party now, so he paid extra to get him in the boat, to take him across. And then Sivananda Sain, he had to go and do something, so he told the devotees, make sure you feed the dog, while I'm gone. And when he came back, he didn't see the dog anywhere, and he asked, did you feed the dog? They hadn't fed the dog. So he left, and he was upset, and he got people together, and they went searching for the dog. I mean, it was amazing. So what happened is amazing, even more amazing, is somehow this dog got to Puri, and he was in the room where Lord Chaitanya was. And what was he doing? Lord Chaitanya was throwing coconut to him. And Lord Chaitanya told him, chant Hare Krishna. And the dog was chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. He was chanting Hare Krishna. And then it's described that he went back to Godhead. It's mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Pretty amazing, huh? Well, I don't know. I don't know what type of body he got, but he went back to the spiritual world. So there are special examples of dogs getting the mercy. But in general, they can't inquire about the absolute truth. So this is the one advantage of the human being. We can inquire, why am I here? What's the goal of life? What's going to happen at the time of death? Prabhupada said these are the three most important questions that a human being should ask. But only the human being can do that. Unfortunately, there's many people that don't do this inquiry. But still, we have to go out and help. Not as much now, but still we go out and we try to help them. So, any question? Comment? Is there any question first? And Javeda Prabhu will give us a comment. He's going to expand some more realization.
Not really realization, but I was thinking of where in the Gita Krishna is very liberal. And I came up with this section in the 12th chapter, which I don't know by heart, but I'll read the translations.
Okay.
So he says, just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage your intelligence, you will live in me always. So then he said, well, you may not be able to do that right away. So if you can't fix your mind upon me without David, then follow the regular principles of Bhakti Yoga, and thus you'll develop a desire to attain me. If you can't do that, then try to work for me. Give me the fruits of the work. Because by working for me, you will come to the perfect state, karma yoga. Work, forget Krishna. Give the results or as much as possible. And if you can't even do that, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. And in other words, be generous.
Charity. Give charity.
And the implication is eventually you'll meet Vijaya on the street and you'll give a donation.
Yeah.
Because you're generous and then you'll get benefit.
Develop a mode of goodness.
Yeah, develop mode of goodness. So that just reminded me. That's really one of the places
another.
I think liberal. I think.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Expanded on the liberality of Krishna. Now we have a question by Balaram Prabhu.
Yep. I just have a comment and a question. You're talking about how a lot of people become devotees by them just having friends that are devotees. And I spoke with some Mormons some time ago, and I was just inquiring, asking different questions, and I asked them, how do you get most of your members? And, most people, or maybe some people, would think that, they get most of their members because they're always, knocking on all the doors, and then they're having Bible studies, Book of Mormon studies, and that's how they get the people. But he's saying we get some people like that, but most of our people that we get as members of our church are people that become friends with our members. Their friends, their family, their coworkers. They invite them, and then they, like that. Anyways, and but in terms of a question, you mentioned that section in the Srimad Bhagavatam of Lord Brahman. He's creating different entities, and these two, I think it was two personalities that came out and they tried to approach Lord Brahma with homosexual inclination or tendency, and you're mentioning how that was, or how the Bhagavatam say those were unnatural, demoniac, unnatural desires. Now, of course, there's certain things within Srila Prabhupada's books that you could say are more challenging to explain than others. Like to explain we're the soul, not so challenging as explaining this. So if someone was to come up and ask us, what about this? How do you how should we answer that? How should we answer that?
About the homosexual
Yeah.
thing?
About it being like unnatural or demonic or something like that.
Well,
Maybe some devotees, you and others, have ideas.
it's natural. It's natural for a man and woman to come together and procreate. It's unnatural. I mean, you're not going to get any procreation from a man and man coming together. It's not. You know, it's one Christian. I remember a little graphic, but it's a good point. He said, just like you go to get gas at the gas station, you put the gas pump in the, where you put where the gas goes. You don't put it in the exhaust pipe, right? So that's a good point. I mean, you're not going to get what you want. Actually, it's sinful. It's just for sense gratification. People have sex. You can have religious sex. Stephen the Saint, he had children. Many pure devotees, they had children. Wonderful. Yeah, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So many, and he prayed for Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he prayed for a ray of Vishnu. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur came out. So there's very, very religious sex. But in a homosexual relation, there cannot be religious sex. It's just sense gratification. So in that sense, it's sinful. Now, a lot of people won't accept that because it's become so liberal, way over.
Someone was to say, okay, yeah, I accept that. Sure, I accept that. But if they say, oh, I'm a homosexual, and that I'm in a homosexual relation, but we don't, there's no, yeah, we're following the regs.
Well, that's okay. Okay, what's the...
Well,
so you have the... So you want to read it?
Yeah, well, it's really short.
Okay, well,
you
Javita
go.
Prabhu is going to read it for those of you on the internet. He's going to explain how that's
Well,
not
you
gonna
mentioned,
work.
you explained the episode, so Brahma's being chased by his
Yeah.
offspring. It appears here that the homosexual appetite of males for each other is created in this episode of the creation of the demons by Brahma. In other words, the homosexual appetite of a man for another man is demoniac and is not for any sane male in the ordinary course of life. And so here, the issue that I understand is that, well, okay, I want to be a devotee. I'm not having sex with anybody, but I can't help the desire I have. I have the desire, and that itself is demoniac. So I'm like intrinsically a demon. There's nothing I can do,
It's not sane. It's insane. It's an insane desire, according to what Prabhupada said.
I know. That's the hard part to explain.
Yeah.
We've had devotees in this movement who've been, inclined that way, but they were restraining themselves, and they did tremendous service.
Yeah.
So you can't. Well, you're a demon because you have the desire. So that's the difficulty in explaining it. Right?
But they can give that up. If they're actually devotees, they should understand this is an improper desire. It's a subtle body that, according to what, and it can be given up. We can become purified, just like the desire to enjoy illicit sex is also impure, and we have to give that up. Yeah. So, as I mentioned, Devanrita Swami had a disciple. He was able to give it up, and he became a nice grihasta. So that's possible. Now, if you surrender, no, that's just my nature. No, it's an impure, insane desire that can be changed. Yeah. Anything else? Srila Prabhupada ki? Yeah.